What did you think, Rachel?
So I actually really enjoyed this. I think it's the best Marvel movie since Guardians 3.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's been
I
a
would
little
say.
bit then.
Yeah. I think the key in a movie like this is the casting and getting a likable group of actors together that have chemistry together, that feel like a believable family that I'm invested in.
And that's key on this, because part of the dynamic of the Fantastic Four is they weren't just a bunch of random people that, like Thor's like, hey, I'm fighting Loki, and Iron Man's like, what's this fight over here between Thor and Loki? And then they just sort of come together. This is actual family. You've got two actual siblings, then one becomes the brother-in-law, the other's the best friend. They all go through this together. So you're right, and I know that was the complaint from the previous versions, was that they didn't feel like the chemistry was all the way there between the characters.
Yeah, and it just makes it more engaging because there's not a ton of action in the movie. They're kind of the action scenes are spaced out, so you have to be kind of invested in the characters in order for it to work. I also really appreciated that this movie is pretty standalone. Unlike the last couple, especially the Captain America one, you don't have to know much about the MCU or the shows or all that, because the last few Marvel movies I've really felt like I had to do homework for them. Like, as somebody who doesn't watch the shows and just watches the movies for the most part, I was left a lot of times like, what is happening? What's going on?
Yeah, and you're right. And that one was what I wrote down about it was that I felt like the story was interesting, which I know that sounds kind of funny, but I like the superheroes sometimes whether the story's interesting or not.
Yeah.
But the story was interesting, and really that question that they have to answer in the movie, I really thought that was, when we're talking about world stakes, then there has to be a decision that would kind of carry that gravitas, or it's just, because you can always undo everything.
Right.
In comics, that's one of the claims. That somebody who's dead is never really dead, except for Uncle Ben. He's the only one who seems to have stayed dead ever from Spider-Man.
The Waynes and Uncle Ben. Only
yeah, the Wayne's parents. Although even Wayne's parents comes back in the alternate Flashpoint paradox.
Yeah.
But the other part was the key characters all had moments that made them more than one-dimensional. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't always happen in a superhero movie. And even superhero movies that I like, I've had things where like, it'd be kind of nice if there was this. It was also nice to have them fighting a villain that required them to use all their powers together that wasn't their mirror image. Too often in a superhero movie, I think, especially for the first one, in order to kind of create the stakes that you need to sustain a movie. In a comic book, you can have villains that are ridiculous, like the guy who rides a rocket-powered skateboard or something like that. But in a movie, you got to have something that people would invest in. And this is one time where they weren't fighting like 4 mirror images of themselves somehow. They all needed to work together to defeat this one super-powered being, Galactus.
Yeah.
And I really like that, and that doesn't happen enough.
Well, and he really was super powered. And when you have characters like Fantastic Four who are so powerful, especially with them all working together, it's hard to come up with something that will be a formidable foe.
Well, and in this case, thankfully, they've got, what are we up to now, 70 or 60 odd years of Fantastic Four that they could pull the right villain from. And there are Easter eggs in this movie, but not so many that you feel like you're missing out on stuff.
Yeah.
My daughter has a Marvel shirt, and I was like, oh, they mentioned this person in the movie. She didn't even know who half the characters were on her shirt. So that Fantastic Four First Steps, my official pull quote is, first steps is a giant step in the right direction for Marvel, back in the right direction. I actually give it an A-.
Yeah, I would give it I think it's the same. I really enjoyed it. I liked Superman a little bit more because it has those rom-com vibes.
Okay.
But I enjoyed this.
Okay. So that is Fantastic Four First Steps, our big movie of the week. It is rated PG-13.